Jai Shri Krishna, Shri Krishna Paramatmane Namaha, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Hari Om. Voice इतना अच्छा नहीं. Give me the freedom to choose. Section 58, the birth of Rishabha. Do you know that the Rishabha Deva, Rishabhnath, is supposed to be the first Nath of the Jains after Adinath? So, Priyavrata's son was Agnitra and his eldest son was Nabhi. Nabhi had no children. He therefore performed a sacrifice where he worshipped the Lord in the form of Yajna Purusha. If anybody doesn't have kids, you know what to do. Pleased with his devotion, Narayana appeared before him. The Ritriks and the Ajamila of the sacrifice praised the Lord with suitable words. They said, "You are perfect, you are complete in every way. We have not the power or the command over words with you can be praised. We only fall at your feet and show our devotion. In a world full of sinful things which beset the path of man, who is there who can gauge your greatness?" And so on and so on. And then they said, all that we praise you with words which are not enunciated clearly enough. We worship you, etc., etc. And yet, you are pleased with our worship, however imperfect it is. All that you want is bhakti. Without bhakti, the most elaborately performed yajna will not please you. Most elaborately performed kriya will not also please you. It seems as though you have understood the deep bhakti that we have. Or else, how could you, the Lord of Lords, bless us with your presence? And so on and so on. I'm skipping a little bit. You know what it is. Narayana looked kindly at them, who stood with tears flowing from their eyes and said, "Don't humiliate yourself. Nabhi wants a son like me. So, he has asked you to perform this yajna. There is no one like me, so I will myself be born as the son of Nabhi." He wants somebody like him. Narayana is saying, but there is no one like me. So the only chance is that I can be born. He's quite happy with the yajna. Nothing is more precious to me than words of a great being like you. You have performed this yajna, and I will honor you by granting your wish. I will be born as the son of Nabhi. In course of time, a son was born to Nabhi, and the king, knowing that it was the Lord himself, so you see where it traces. Beginning of the Jain system is traced to the Lord. Beginning of this Shaivite system is traced to Mahadeva. So in the Bhagavat there is no contention like that. It's pure devotion, that's all that matters. The child was named Rishabha, and the fame of the child spread far and wide. When his son reached manhood, Nabi crowned him as king and went to Badri, where he worshipped Narayana till he reached the feet of the Lord. Rishabha, in course of time, married Jayanti, the daughter of Indra, and became the father of 100 sons. The eldest of them was Bharata. The country which he ruled later became known as Bharatavarsha. Bharat was Rishabha's son, eldest son. So today we have all the flags saying Bharat, Bharat came from Bharatavarsha, Bharat, son of Rishabha. The purpose of the Rishabha Avatara was to show the world of men that a man can be king, surrounded by wealth and luxury and all the many things which tempt man, live with the most beautiful of women and the father of many children. Nowadays 100 is not possible. Live the life of a perfect grihastha and yet live like a sannyasi. This was the lesson taught to the world of men by Rishabha. It is the peculiarity of human beings that they try to emulate whatever someone in a high position does. It's a quality we have. And so it is the responsibility of a good king to set an example to his subjects, make them walk in the path traced out by himself. This was the purpose of this avatara. Rishabha taught men that living a family life, the life of a grihastha, one could still so arrange the life that he could achieve dharma, artha, kama and finally moksha. Righteous living and selfless performance of all actions, that was all that was necessary. Though he was himself beyond worldly things, Rishabha lived according to the rules set down for the wise and ruled the kingdom like an ideal king. To propagate the lesson of living a life of detachment to the world, one day King Rishabha called his sons to his side and taught them the rules of living. He said, "My sons, this human body has been given to us not just to enjoy worldly things, animals also do that, but for a higher purpose. Purity of mind is essential. There are two immense gateways. Serving people who are great is one gateway to salvation. The other is the one which leads to worldliness, and this is entered by attachment to the senses and the objects of the senses. Equanimity of the mind is the one thing you should strive for. You should learn to receive gain and loss with the same frame of mind. Anger should be conquered and the mind should be brought under control. Devotion to the Lord should be the aim of life. You should not become attached to the things that you possess, including your kingdom. One should desire only that much which is essential for the maintenance of the body. Because of some wrong actions performed in previous janmas, this body has been given to you to live in. You have been made to be born in this world beset with many temptations. It is but logical that you should act in such a way that the repetition of this cycle of births and deaths ends. So long as the body exists, So long as the mind does not think on the higher truth, so long will karma hold its sway over man. Avidya, that is the ignorance of the true nature of Atma, leads man to become involved in this snare called karma. So, as long as man does not think of the Lord, women also, you will not find freedom in this world. One becomes more and more attached to the things that one possesses. 1,000 things similar to your own family, your children, your wealth. One fails to see that the world of objects is false and he does not think of the higher wisdom, which tells him the truth about the world he lives in, becomes foolish and suffers as a consequence of his actions. I and mine, the two dead enemies of man, I and mine, the two dead enemies of man, cloud his vision, and the knots of the heart do not get loosened. Because of his love for worldly things and new forms of attachment, land, home, women, son, relations, wealth, and goes on endlessly. The chain binding him to the earth has new links forged, and it becomes stronger and stronger. For such a man, the hope of salvation is indeed very thin. The moment one begins to see the truth about these things, the moment the knot in the heart becomes loosened by wisdom, he loses the attachment he had towards things of the senses. His ahankara and mamakara, what is mamakara? Is it mine? Leave him on their own accord. My sons, set your minds on the thoughts of the Lord. Abandon attachment. Heat and cold, hunger and thirst, sorrow and delusion should have no effect on you. Your pursuit should be the pursuit of the only knowledge which is worthwhile. The knowledge of the Supreme Being. Surrender yourself to the Lord. Dedicate your actions to Him. Listen to the stories about Him and keep the company of the devotees of the Lord. Hate no one. Somebody went a step higher and said, bless them that curse you. Hate no one, because everyone is an image of the Lord. Share the pain of others. Control anger, even with the staff. Be alone with yourselves whenever you can, because solitude helps you to think of the Lord. Do your duties properly. Do not neglect any of them. Plus, speak sparingly and think more. You know this thing called tongue, speech? While it can do beautiful things like chant the Vedas, say good things, read the Bhagavatam. On the other hand, it's one of the most dangerous things. It can speak evil, it can create problems, it can go out of control sometimes, and one sometimes doesn't even know what one is saying. caught up in the current of anger and despair. One can utter things which are completely step back and think, this is nonsense. But so the best way to do that, speak sparingly. Think more. It is essential that a guru should lead the way for a shishya, a disciple. Because if the guru becomes angry, the guru is talking nonsense all the time. And he is, you know how it is. And treats the disciple like shit. I didn't want to say shit. But that doesn't mean you should catch the disciple and keep him on the lap. Sorry, that's not what I mean. How will you keep 1,000 people or more on your lap? Before you know it, the lap would have gone. Not like that. What I mean is, at least be gentle. So it is essential, these are the teachings of Rishabha. It is essential that a guru lead the way for a shishya. And for a son, the father is the guru. Father like Rishabha. Not all fathers. It is the duty of a father to lead his son in the right path. It is the duty of a king to lead his subjects to the right path. I am your guru and I am telling you what you should do. But you will see in the Bhagavat many times others also become gurus. Devahuti's guru was her own son Kapila. So it can change. Oh, Brahma looks like Vishnu now. Wow. With the Nama. So, when a guru, in this case Rishabha, sees his disciples getting involved in karma, it is his duty to teach them the path of freedom. He has passed through this difficult journey called life, and he knows by experience the many pitfalls that beset the path of man. If the guru has not compassion enough towards his follower to warn him about them, what use is all the learning of the guru? The guru doesn't have the sense, common sense to say, incessant emails will not solve the problem. Do your sadhana, change your life, then you don't even need the guru. He is Supreme Being is the guru. There was a flower seller in Ganeshpuri who lived with the great Nityananda Avaduta all his life. He always slept near him. But in the end, he only was a flower seller, nothing happened. Depends on the attitude, the interest, the sincerity. So don't think all the people who are close with me, walking with me, they all become saints, First of all, I have to become one, right? Anyway. So, no man will sit unconcerned when someone is drowning. A guru should be a guide, a father, a mother, a well-wisher. Ponder carefully on all that. Consider this Bharata as your father. This Bharata is your guru also. He is a great man. Live in the world in the manner that I have indicated. Bhakti is the one cure for dread. What dread? The dread disease called delusion. And with the help of bhakti, save yourself from the cycle of births and deaths. Rishabha spoke these words to his son who were already very much like him. It was more to guide the men of the world that he gave this discourse. He then crowned Bharata as the king, renouncing his kingdom, his wife, his children, and all that was once his. Rishabha, who had never been deluded by Maya, left the country and went away. Not only in this country, he wandered all over the world till the time his freedom came, which means dropping the body. It is a rule of life that even when a man has no desires left, when nothing in the world moves him, when he is all ready to move away from the world, still life persists till appointed time comes. When a potter spins the wheel to fashion the pot of clay, it spins long after the pot is removed from it. Even so, because of some chance, some prarabdha, some samskara of the previous births, life will not leave the body even if Dehi is ready to die. It is so. It was so also with King Rishabha. He had become an avaduta, and after long wandering, he reached the slopes of the hills of Kutaka near Coorg. While he was there, a forest fire devoured the large forest where he was wandering, and he found release from the bondage called karma, which had never really touched him anyway. Bharata, the son of Rishabha, the son of Rishabha ruled the kingdom well. He was a righteous man and his rule was perfect. So famed was the earth under his rule that in later days she earned the name of Bharatavarsha, since the good king Bharata ruled her. In the wake of his ancestors, Bharata followed all the rules of conduct which are prescribed for a king, and the earth was happy under his rule. He was a great devotee of Narayana. In the heart of Bharata was imprinted the form of the Lord. When he felt he had enjoyed the kingdom and the pleasures enough, Bharata divided the kingdom among his sons, crowned his eldest son as the king, and renouncing everything, he went away to Haridwar. He went away to Haridwar, to the ashrama of the sage Pulaha. I caught you by. The ashrama was located in a very picturesque spot like all ashramas. It was surrounded by the river Chakra, which is even today full of shaligramas, the stones which are worshipped, since Lord Narayana is said to be represented by the shaligrama. Bharata stayed alone there with the flowers and fruits collected by him. Imagine a king. By the flowers and fruits collected by himself, he would worship Narayana every day with a full and overflowing heart, overflowing with bhakti. He had passed beyond the stage where the pleasures and pains of the world affect man, and his heart was filled with peace, born of renunciation and detachment. He had reached the very ecstasy of joy which comes from intense devotion to the Lord in his heart. His heart would melt like water when the thought of Narayana would come, and tears of joy would run from his eyes. His heart was like a deep lake into which he had immersed himself, and his ego and his self, everything was soaked in it. Every day he would wander around clad in the skin of a deer, with his hair matted and dusty. He would invoke the Lord who is present in the rising sun, which means this physical representation of the Supreme Being is considered to be the sun, which shines equally on sinners and saints, which gives heat without which photosynthesis is not possible. You can't even eat vegetables. And he would pray, I surrender myself to that glorious power which created this world, which pervades this universe which it has created, which protects by his beloved power of affection, which is the cause of the intellect functioning, which is lodged in the sun, thus giving its glory to the sun. The Upanishad says, Yan manasa namanyute yana ahurvano matam tadeva brahmatvam vidvi nedam yad idam upasate. That means that Supreme Being is the one who cannot even be captured by your intellect and your mind, but because of whom the intellect has its capacity to function. That is the supreme truth. Days passed thus for him who knew no joy other than the thoughts of the Lord. Once when he was seated on the banks of the Mahanadi, bent on his morning prayers, a very sad scene met his eyes. A deer had come to the banks of the river to drink water. All of a sudden, the roar of a lion was heard. The noise seemed to come from somewhere near. Frightened by the roar, which she knew was very near, the poor deer did not know which way to run. This is how the tiger and the lion catch these deers. They come very close, give one roar. She doesn't know which direction to go out of here. Frightened by the roar, which she knew was very near, the poor deer didn't know where to go. She had not even begun to drink the water for which she was thirsty. In despair born of extreme terror, she tried to leap across the river. Because of a sudden panic, the little deer, which was unborn, fell into the river from her body. She was fully pregnant. She jumped. She delivered. The mother deer, when she reached the opposite bank, lay panting and crawled to a cave where after a few moments she died. Bharata, who had been watching the entire incident, was overcome with pity for the poor unfortunate deer which had been born just a few moments back, and which was struggling on the surface of the water. He gathered it up in his arms and took it to the hermitage. He fed it with milk and he fondled it and comforted it as a mother would. Days passed. Why has Bharata come to the forest? To give up everything and meditate on the Lord. Now he got a little dear child to look at. Days passed. The deer became older. By then it had become the very life of Bharata. He became greatly attached to this living being. He who had renounced his kingdom, his wife, his children, his everything, became inordinately fond of this animal. It became with him an obsession. He could not bear to let it out of his sight even for a moment. If it went out to graze, he would become worried and tell himself, my poor child has no friends, no kinsmen, no mother, no father, he has no one except me. I am his only refuge. He trusts me completely. I cannot fail him since he has implicit faith in me. It is up to me to protect him. So in this Bharata Varsha, which is named after Bharata, don't you think 1 degree of this compassion should be practiced to human beings, animals, doesn't matter which. Otherwise we call it Bharata Varsha. He would spend all his time with him. He would wander in the forest along with the deer. He would carry him on his shoulders when he thought that the young animal was tired. And if he did not come back to him in the evening, he would be terribly worried. He would say to himself, will I see my beloved deer again? Perhaps a wolf or a wild dog or other animal has eaten him up. The sun is about to set and the child has still not come back, and so on. He would walk about in agony and say, it is dangerous to leave it alone in the forest. I must go in search of it. So saying, he would wander into the forest and like one demented, call out to the deer, find him and bring it back home in his arms. This affection for the deer made him forget all other duties. His daily worship of the Lord, his samadhi when he would sit and concentrate on the form of the Lord, they all became things of the past. When he tried to worship, the deer would come in and prod him gently with his horns. And Bharata would offer to the deer young blades of grass which he had gathered. When he sat in meditation, the form of the Lord would not come before his eyes, and he would smile indulgently at the thoughts of his pet. In short, everything was now forgotten, and the deer was the only thing that mattered. He would fondle it like a mother, and he would spend hours together talking. This was indeed a terrible state of affairs, not for everyone, but for one who has renounced the world. Days passed by, and death, which is no respecter of persons, finally drew near Bharata with the speed of a storm and entered into him like a snake would into the hole where the rat lives. Bharata fixed his dying eyes on the deer, and his last thought was the deer. Aching for his pet, Bharata gave up his breath. Bharata, of course, was born again, because he hadn't reached salvation yet. He was attached to the deer. When he died, he was thinking of the deer. He was born again. Since his thoughts were fixed on the deer, since with his last breath he was calling out to the deer, he was born as a deer. But he was fortunate in one thing. He had the privilege of remembering his previous life, which is rare. Overcome with self-pity, he told himself. So don't think animals don't think, okay? They also think. He told himself, the deer, what a pitiable state is mine now. I had abandoned all kinds of attachments. I had made the forest my home, and my mind was ever lost in the thoughts of the Lord. remembering the many stories about him. There was place in my heart for Narayana, nothing else would find a place there. My mind was firmly fixed on his lotus feet. And into that calm lake came a disturbing factor, the affection I developed for the deer. So powerful was it that it made me forget everything else. Even my Lord Narayana. I had strayed far away from the path I had been following. As a result of that, I have been born as a deer instead of reaching the state of the Brahman. Such is the power of affection and attachment to worldly things. I must try and exhaust this birth by associating myself with people whose thoughts dwell on him. My mind will once again become attuned to the higher sphere through satsanga, sadhu satsanga. My thinking on him by listening to his praises, listening to conversations and talks about his glory, I will be rid of this janma and I will become free of earthly bondage once again. In the form of a deer, therefore, Bharata travelled towards Shalagrama, which was the spot where rishis congregated. Staying there, living on the grass, growing in the ashrama, and drinking the waters of the river flowing there. If you see any pictures or movies of ashramas, rishis, you'll see deers moving around there. They look after the deer, but they don't get attached to it. See green grass, birds, everything is there. So staying there in the ashrama in Shalagrama, living on the grass, growing in the ashrama, drinking the waters of the river flowing there, Bharata spent his life painfully, waiting for death, which would retrieve him. Finally he died. Like everybody's case, right? Have you thought about that? Somebody was poor, then you became rich, then you built that, then you built this, then keep asking, then he died, okay? Somebody was very rich, he did this, he did that, then he lost everything, became a pauper, he was in the streets, and then what? Then he died. Like he died. What about the great rishis who taught wonderful things and taught us how to free ourselves from the snares of the senses? In the end, they died. So, in the same way, Bharata also died. You can say he attained samadhi, nice way of saying it, but he died. There was a Brahmin belonging to the Angirasa clan. He was a very good man. He had followed the rules of conduct set down for wise and learned people. He had 9 sons by his first wife, and his second wife bore him a son and a daughter. The son of the second wife was none other than Bharata, who had to be born again. It is said that even devas who want to attain the feet of Narayana, attain moksha, will have to be born in Bhuloka. So, to attain final release, this Bharata was born again as the son of the second wife of this good man. Bharata had been the son of Rishabha. So how lucky we are that we are as human beings. The path is clear. fortunate. Nothing to curse. We're born as good. There's a path open. Bharata had been the son of Rishabha, an incarnation of Lord Narayana. So Narayana had himself taught his son all the dharma to be followed by a mumukshu. Mumukshu, the one who desires moksha. Bharata had been initiated into the Atma Vidya. He had almost achieved it. Then, because of the power of the karma, which he had to exhaust, he had to be born as a deer. And after that, one more janma was needed to grant him freedom. Rentless is fate, and the path to salvation is not easy. It is said that yogis are born in the homes of good men, means good families, and Bharata was born in the home of a good man. Because of the disgust he felt with himself, as a result of his fall from the grace in previous janmas, Bharata did not want to form any new attachment with anyone from childhood. In his family, he was found to hold himself aloof from others. He was a difficult child as far as his father was concerned. The poor man tried his best to initiate his son into the mystery of the Gayatri, music, other mantras. Though he spent several months in his attempt, he was not able to get any response from his son. Bharata would deliberately mispronounce the words and recite them out of tune. He refused to learn anything. And gradually he managed to produce the impression that he was a deaf mute. He didn't want to get involved. People called him a fool, an imbecile. But he was not in the least affected by what people said. He remembered his previous births, and he was bent on only one thing, freedom from this earthly bondage. And so, like rain falling on the back of a buffalo, the comments of the men of the world did not affect him in the least, nor did it affect his behavior. His father was drowned in the performance of worldly duties. He was unhappy that he could not make a good Brahmin out of his son. He can't even chant the Gayatri. In course of time, he died. His wife left her son and daughter in the care of her stepsons and their mother. Once their father and mother were dead, the brothers of Bharata felt they did not have much to do with Bharata. They felt they did not have any responsibility as far as Bharata was concerned. They lost no time in ill-treating their stepbrother. Now Bharata would not protest, which made them more happy. They would make him labor in the fields, and they insulted his birth as a Brahmin. But Bharata did not mind it at all. He would work till sunset and would be satisfied with whatever food the brothers gave him. Sometimes it would be old musty flour, and sometimes he would get only the husk from the grains. They all tasted the same to Bharata. And he spent hours thinking on the Lord and doing menial work for his brothers. There was a robber chieftain who did not have any children. He was told, Offering a human being as a sacrifice to the goddess Kali would get him a son. He therefore sent his servants in all directions to bring a human being fit enough for the sacrifice. They searched in vain all through the day, and they saw that night had set in. Bandits and dacoits are generally known to worship Kali, mother of destruction. They think she would help them to do all their feats. And also, where Kali is worshipped, people generally won't dare to go. What with the tongue out and... So, he sent people to find out if he could get anybody for a sacrifice so that he would have a son. Now, they were wandering around. Suddenly, at a distance, they saw a human being standing on a mound, standing on a raised spot. Bharata was guarding the fields. The servants of the robber chieftain drew near and looked at Bharata. He had always been unmindful of the body, rain or sunshine, cold or heat. Sitoshna sukha dukkheshu, all were equal to him. He was used to lying on the ground or anywhere his body was covered with dust and grime. He was like a precious stone covered with clay. They saw that he had a sacred thread which was black with dirt. Life in the open and the hardship he had undergone all these years has made the body of Bharata strong and powerful. Looking at him, the servants of the king thought he was a perfect victim. His body, though dirty, was without a single blemish or wound or even a scratch. They lost no time in making up their minds. They tied him up with ropes and carried him away with them. They were rather surprised at his unresisting attitude. He didn't put up a fight. They were tying him, and he said, "That strand is loose, tie it stronger." They took him to the temple. He was bathed in holy water, and he was dressed in clothes meant for a sacrificial victim. They smeared sandalwood paste all over his body, and his forehead bore the mark of the red sindoor. They made him partake of a big meal and then placed him before the altar of the goddess. There was wild music and playing of drums. All the while, Bharata was silent and unaffected. The priest then pronounced the incantations. They also have a priest. And lifted his sword to kill Bharata, the victim, to offer a sacrifice. All the while, Bharata sat silent and unaffected. The priest then pronounced the incantations, took his sword and raised it. The goddess could not bear the glow emanating from this young Brahmin sitting there ready to be killed. His glory was burning her and she came out unable to bear it. She saw that a great crime was about to be committed. A poor, unresisting man was to be killed by a group of robbers, bloodthirsty villains, every one of them, though they worshipped her. And the crime was ascribed to her. She was followed by a group of servants from the heavens. She stood there watching while they fell on the miscreants and killed all of them and drank their blood to their fill. Not Jada Bharata. The goddess disappeared after blessing the Brahmin, and he too went on his way. The goddess refused to accept him as a sacrifice. She said, "What? This man?" Instead, the robbers were killed. Once a king by name Rahuguna was traveling along the banks of the river Nikshumati. He was lord of the countries of Sindhu and Sauvira. He was being carried in a palanquin, and the bearers thought that one man more would make it easier for them to carry the weight. They looked around. Eyes fell on Bharata, who was standing there vacant. He was well built. He looked strong and tough, and they felt that he was ideal for the job. Accordingly, they called out to him and ordered him to help them. Bharata, who presented the appearance of a stupid person, did not speak a word. Though it was degrading for him, born as a Brahmin, to carry the palanquin of a Kshatriya, he did not protest. He lifted it silently along with the others. On the way, at every step, he would scrutinize to see if there were any helpless germs, insects or worms. That was his lookout. Making sure that there were none, he would then place his foot on the spot. Naturally, this upset the rhythm of the pace of the others most of the time. So his palanquin carriers, one fellow is slowing down. The king became quite annoyed about this and said, "Why is the palanquin leaning to one side like this? Can you not do your job properly?" Servant said, "It is not our fault, Lord. This newcomer is not falling into step with us. This is the problem." The king looked at the newcomer and he looked up and down. In a sarcastic voice he said, "Poor man, you look pitiable. You've been carrying the burden all by yourself all this distance. You're very tired, your form is so thin. Your muscles are flabby, you're not tough like the others. My friend, you are also too old to work." Bharata was silent. He did not speak a word in retort, but silently he lifted up the palanquin on his shoulder. They began to move. A few steps had been taken. A few feet of ground had been covered, and again the same thing happened. This time the king was openly angry. He said, "You fool, what do you think you are doing? You are behaving like a walking corpse. You disregard my commands and you are behaving impertinently. I will teach you a lesson. I will do it so thoroughly that you will get some sense into your head. This arrogance is not allowed." King was proud of the fact that he was a king, the master who could do what he liked with his servants. In him the two gunas of tamas and rajas were predominant. So was his pride. His arrogance had grown beyond all control. He had not benefited by the company of God-loving people who could have, if he had given a chance, instilled some wisdom in him. This foolish king spoke cruel and arrogant words to the Brahmin, who would not hurt anything or anyone, not even a worm crawling on the ground. Bharata looked long and silently at the king. A slight smile was seen at the corner of his mouth. Without raising his voice, without any anger, he said, "You are angry with me because you think that I am not carrying your palanquin properly. You spoke with sarcasm when you said, I have been carrying the burden too long and that I am tired. Your meaning is that I am not one bit tired by this burden. In a way, your words are true. But your desire to hurt me with your sarcasm is pointless. It does not hurt me. Shall I tell you why? You are under the impression that this body of mine is real and that the burden it has been carrying is also real. If this is true, then your words would certainly have hurt me. But then, how can you be sure that these two are real? I cannot prove that this body of mine is real, nor can I prove that the burden it has been carrying is real. Under the circumstances, how can it be possible to hurt a person or a thing which is non-existent? I am not existing. The real I in me has absolutely no connection with this so-called body of mine. And insults to this body or injustice heaped on this body do not affect me in the least. You said that I have been carrying the burden alone for a long distance and that I am tired. You wanted to insult me, I know. But I do not choose to be insulted. The reason is this. If it is true, there is a distance to be covered. If there is a purpose to be achieved by covering that distance, and if these two factors have anything to do with me, then and only then should I be affected by your remarks. Right? I am not sure of the existence of either of these things or my connection. The words are meaningless to me, considering I am formless. And the qualification big and small, lean and fat do not apply to it. These words are for describing the body, the home of the Atman and not the Atman. Fatness or leanness, diseases of the mind and the body, hunger, thirst, fear, quarrelsomeness, desire, old age, sleep, lust, avarice, pain, all these affect the one who thinks that he is a body, and not me, who knows the truth about myself. This body is short-lived, limited, while I am endless, eternal. You call me a walking corpse? O king, so are you. So is every man and animal on this earth. O king, the process of birth and death do not confine themselves to me alone. All things which are undergoing change are liable to birth and death. Every moment there is birth and there is death. If by any chance wealth and the owning of wealth are permanent, then this command of yours and this threat of yours that you will punish me will be plausible. But it is not so. The difference between a king and a servant arises because of the sense of duality, and I cannot find any such reason. There is no such thing as a superior person, and there is no one inferior to him. But you do not seem to realize it. Tell me what I should do now. I have realized myself. I do appear to be a stupid man, a deaf man, without any feelings, a fool. But really, the things of the world do not affect me, not in the least. How then is your punishment going to affect me, since I know that I am far away from all this? It will be like kneading flour which has already been kneaded. K-N-E-A-D, knead. It will have no effect on my behavior. Bharata took the palanquin, again, after saying this, and tried to place it once again on his shoulders. Drained of all pride and arrogance by the words of Bharata, King Rahuguna fell at his feet, jumped out from the palanquin, and spoke in a voice choked with tears, born of shame. He said, "My pride has been destroyed by you. Forgive me for my impertinence and please grant me a boon. Please be gracious enough to tell me who you are. I am the ruler of Sindhu and Savira. They call me Rahuguna. I was on my way to the great Kapila to sit at his feet and learn Brahma Vidya from him. But you seem to be Kapila himself, who has come to meet me on his own accord to save me. To what good actions in my previous janma do I owe this great good fortune that has befallen me? Please initiate me into the science of truth." Bharata, what did Bharata say? Shut up, keep quiet, no? Bharata was filled with pity for this king, who seemed to be really eager to learn. He said, "I will try to help you and you will find the path to salvation. Listen to me carefully while I explain it all to you." Bharata sat on a large slab of rock which was nearby, and the king sat humbly at the feet of the master. Bharata then began his discourse on Brahma Vidya. It's very big. This is the Brahma Vidya that Bharata taught to Rahuguna. It is the mind of human beings which causes them either to fall into the morass called samsara or to find freedom from it, is the mind. It is the mind which should be subdued. When the mind is tainted with the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamo gunas, its path is set to the world of objects. It will have to keep on performing actions, good or bad, and the cycles of births and deaths will be endless. So long as the mind is attached to the things of the world, it can never grow on its own accord. Take the example of a little lamp. It has a wick, and the wick is fed by a quantity of ghee. When it burns, the flame will be colored because of the quality of the ghee which is feeding it, and the smoke and light emanating from it will also have the quality of the ghee. If, however, the ghee is all exhausted, the wick will burn on its own accord with a color and glow which is natural and eventually be converted to nothing, ashes. Even so the mind, as long as it is fed by the gunas. It will become colored by them and act accordingly. The gunas leave the mind, will reach a stage when it has no existence. When the jiva therefore sheds all attachment, conquers the six enemies and illumines itself with the lamp of wisdom, the jiva will be free. Till then, you will have to go through the pain of being born again and again into this world. This is the essence of it. So all the rest is just so what happened? After learning this, Rahuguna prostrated before Bharata and said, "My lord, being born as a man is the greatest of blessings granted to the jiva. I am not jealous of the gods at all. Since it is not given to everyone, not even the gods, to have the good fortune of coming across such souls like you. I have that unique privilege. By your company, for just a muhurta, all my ignorance has been driven away. I am rid of my pride and ego. You have taught me there is only one duty for man, and that is to surrender to the Lord. So I bow before you again and again. There is no other way in which I can express my gratefulness to you." Bharata blessed him, went his way to wander on the face of the earth as long as the Lord thought it fit to keep his body alive. We have this session another 20 minutes left. So, this is an interesting story called Ajamila's death. Human beings, absorbed as they are in worldly things, worldly pleasures and the pursuit of worldly happiness, have their minds closed by ignorance of the truth and about the real nature of oneself. To the human being, the eternal cycle of births and deaths will always exist. It's only with the help of knowledge that the wheel can be torn and this chain can be snapped. There are, however, some who have reached the Lord by unconditional surrender, which in the bhakti literature is called Sharanagati. Their sins are destroyed like the snow by the sun, effortlessly. And a man who offers himself to the Lord reaches a higher stage than that of anyone else. No tapas, no penance, no privations can equal this devotion to the Lord. Once a man fixes his mind on the feet of the Lord, then sin and death will not come near him, not even in his dreams. So potent is the power of this yoga. There is an ancient story to illustrate the power of this bhakti towards Narayana. There lived a Brahmin called Ajamila in the country which was famed as Kanyakubja. Though he had been born as a Brahmin, he was behaving only like a Brahmana Bandhu. That means no qualities of a Brahmin. This man had fallen on evil ways and had lost all goodness. He was living in sin with a woman much below his station. He, who was once compassionate towards all, became cruel. He became a cheat and a gambler. Also he became avaricious. He would steal the wealth of others and his life was full of sin. he would not protect his family, which was lawfully his. In short, there was not a single person known to him who loved him. He was detested by all, which is in a way good. Time passed on and he was getting old. Of this woman he was living with, he had 10 sons, and the youngest called Narayana. His youngest son was called Narayan. He was the beloved. So it's a good thing to think of Narayana all the time, because you're attached to the Lord and you will get freedom from him. He was the beloved of his father and mother. Ajamila would spend all his time in the company of the child. In his extreme love for the son, the father thought of nothing else. Like some people can think only of one person, they cannot think of anybody else. Bad person. It's a good sadhana, but Ajamila would spend all his time in the company of the child. And his extreme love for the son, the father thought of nothing else. While eating, he would not eat alone. He would call out to his son and say, Narayana, you should also eat this. And eat before I eat. So in a way, with his youngest son Narayana, he was doing everything that a yogi would do, in a way. When he drank anything, he would first offer it to his son, saying, Narayana, you drink this first. Spending his time like this, involved with this woman and his children, Ajamila never realized that death was drawing near. When death was very near, all his thoughts and actions were bent on his son. And he would speak only his name all the time. Finally, the dreadful messengers of death approached him. You know how they come? Buffaloes. Somebody said, if you stay in a small kutir with a little door, you need not worry about these fellows. Buffaloes cannot come in. Anyway, they came. Finally, and what happened? Ajamila saw them at a distance. And he saw his son Narayana playing in the courtyard. In a failing voice, he called out, Narayana, come to me, Narayana, and died. When he spoke the words, Narayana, come to me, with his dying breath, the servants of Narayana heard him and they came to him at once. They saw the messengers of Yama, the god of death, dragging the soul away from the body. Narayana's men stopped him. Yamadutas were very angry and they said, what is this? Pray, who may you be that have the audacity to prevent the servants of Yama from doing their duty? Where do you come from? To whom do you belong? Are you gods or demigods? Why do you stop us? Servants of Narayana smiled at them and said, if you say you are the servants of Dharma, please tell us about Dharma. Meanwhile, the body is lying there. The soul is stuck there, Ajamila. Tell us the criterion which governs the punishment meted out to people by Dharma. Who are the persons Who should be punished? What are punishable actions? Are only human beings punished? Or does the rule apply to animals also? Please explain. Yamadutas, tell us, we are interested in hearing this. Please remember, all the time this Ajamila's soul is neither here nor there. Yamadutas said, whatever has been ordained by the Vedas is dharma. Dharma can be called the very breath of Lord Narayana. Anything against that is adharma. Dharma is the Lord Himself. Those who do not follow the dharma are punished by Yama. Man lives by his action alone. No man can be without action. According to one's actions, meaning according to whether they are good or bad, one is rewarded or punished. A man's future is determined by his actions in this birth. Residing in the city called Samyami, the Lord Yama decides on the next birth of a man according to the actions of his birth now. But the human being, however, in arrogance and ignorance, does not pay attention to the instability of the human body. His intelligence is clouded by ignorance and he thinks this body is the only one he has and this birth is the only birth he has. He does not think of his previous birth or the one to come. A man who is dreaming does not remember his body of the waking state. Nor does he remember the bodies he had while he was dreaming other dreams. Like a cocoon covered by silk of its own making, man covers his Atman by the results of his karma and deludes himself that he is bound. He cannot ever extricate himself unless and until he realizes that it is entirely within his powers to free himself. These are all spoken by the wise Yamadutas. They all know. Now, we will tell you about this Ajamila. He was once a good man, a very good man. He was a righteous Brahmin. He was well read, well behaved. He walked in the path of Dharma. Once, when he had been to the forest to collect kusha grass and flowers for the worship of the Lord, which his father used to perform, Ajamila saw a drunken man making love to a woman of ill repute. The sight made Ajamila think of the pleasures of the body, of the senses, and the satiation that he got from them. He wanted to have that woman and experience the thrill which could be seen on the face of the man who was with her. Imitation. Ajamila tried his best to use his intelligence and his self-control. No use. He had fallen a prey to the gnawing hunger of the flesh. It was just a matter of moments before he forgot all the learning he had acquired and all the discipline he had undergone. He lost his way and strayed from the path of Dharma. He became a slave to that woman and lost himself completely. He had to steal in order to satisfy avarice. He had to gamble. In short, all sins became natural to him. He abandoned his wife, he abandoned his wedded wife, and he lived with this woman. He is an adharmi, and therefore he deserves to be punished. Narayana's men listened to the words of the Yamadutas, Yamakinkaras, and then said, all that you said about this man is true. He accepted. No doubt he was a sinner. But at the moment when he was alive, was about to leave his body, he called out and said, Narayana, come here. And that has saved him from your hands. When his name is called, the Lord will never abandon his caller. He treats him as his bhakta and all his sins are washed white. This man is no longer a sinner in the eyes of the Lord. He has therefore no place in the region of Yama. You may say that he did not mean the Lord when he called out Narayana. You may say, oh, he called the sun. We know that. But still, such is the power of the name of the Lord that he protects even those who inadvertently pronounce his name. Like a strong and potent medicine which even when swallowed unintentionally still cures the sick man who has taken it. Even so, Ajamila, because he said, Narayana, come here, has been saved from punishment by Yama. A man can be a thief, a drunkard, one who deceives his friend, a killer of the wise, one who lusts after his guru's wife, the killer of a king, killer of a woman, or killer of the father or the cow. One who has committed a sin greater than all these may exist. But the name of the Lord, when pronounced, will save him from the effects of the sins he has committed. If his child is called by the Lord's name, if the Lord's name is spoken even in jest, even if it occurs in a song sung for pure pleasure, even in a disco song. Actually, in a certain community, there is a food which is called song. So I heard my father-in-law telling somebody, don't put too much chili in the song, it will become a disco song. If the Lord's name is spoken even in a jest, even if it occurs in a song sung for pure pleasure, even if spoken making fun of the Lord, even in such circumstances, the very fact that his name is spoken is enough to make Lord compassionate and he will save man. If a man has a sudden mishap like falling down the steps or being stung by a serpent or by fever, if his subconscious self calls out the Lord's name, he is saved. The great rishis have prescribed several kinds of atonements. Each sin has to be atoned in a particular way through a certain yaga. These rites are like temporary cures for the disease. They do not get to the core of the matter and destroy the sin in the heart of man. However, surrender at the feet of the Lord destroys all sin. It kills the root of sin. Consider a large expanse of darkness. It's not a tiny lamp enough to dispel it. And if the lamp is kept burning steadily by being fed with the proper oil, darkness can never come to that spot. The name of the Lord invokes thoughts on the Lord, and these, in their turn, makes one lose one's sinfulness. The vasanas get destroyed on their own accord, and one sins no more. This man, Ajamila, did not know the power of the name of the Lord. And so you may say, what he did not do consciously cannot have an effect. He didn't do it consciously, he did it somehow. You're wrong. Like a spark of fire touching a piece of wood, accidentally still burns it completely till nothing remains. Even so, his sins have all been burnt away. If you are still not convinced by our words, go to your master Yama and ask him if our words are true. It's 5:30. We are so immersed in this Narayana's name that we don't know what is happening to the time. Quite a character. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, we came to where the dutas of Yama were sent back and told to go and ask Yama, what does he think about it? कल से मैं फिर थोड़ा स्किप करके हिरण्यकशिपु प्रहलाद की स्टोरी पे चल, तब तो मिडिल हो जाएगा. फिर 4 दिन we need to do. Now the servants of Yama released Ajamila, went back to their master. After going there, they told him about the happenings of the earth, about how when they were going to bring Ajamila, they were prevented from doing so by some demigods. They recounted the discussions they had with the servants of Narayana. The servants of Yama said, it has never happened before, my lord. You are the Lord of Dharma. Until now, no one has been able to escape the punishments meted out by you. But today, 4 strange beings flaunted your authority. We captured Ajamila, but they cut the noose of death and released him. He spoke the name Narayana just before he died, and at once they came to his side. They would not let us do our duty. They told us so much about the glory of the name of Narayana and added that you would clarify the matter fully. Tell us why it has to be so. Their words were so full of authority that we had to obey them. That what strange power is this which saves a sinner from the noose of Yama? What is this? Contrary to their expectations, they thought Yama would be angry with them. Contrary to their expectations, Yama smiled with happiness and spoke softly to them. He said, I have great power over the lives of human beings and I have the power to punish them. You're right, so far. But there is one above me whom I have to honor and obey. That is the Lord Narayana. Have you seen a piece of cloth? It is woven out of threads that make up the wap and the oof. Even so, this entire universe is woven by Him. And He is the power which causes the creation, the maintenance of the universe, and the destruction of this entire universe. Like a bullock led by the strings which run through nostrils, this world and everything is guided. The strings are the Vedas, all of us, Indra, Varuna, Vayu, Surya, all the guardians of the 8 quarters and Brahma himself and Agni, all the gods have not still been able to realize the entire glory of the Lord. Nor can it be possible to grasp his Maya. Man is endowed with organs of sight, smell, touch, taste. For him to see, to smell, to touch, there is something inside him which makes these functions possible. That something inside the heart of man is the drishta, the seer. One cannot understand the nature of this something inside. He is so enveloped in the veil called Maya that it clouds his intelligence and he is not able to realize the Atman inside. There are very few people who have understood this mystery. Who are there? I am one of the few. Yama. And others are Brahma, Narada, Sanat Kumara, Kapila, Manu, Prahlada, Janaka, Vali, and Vyasa's son Sukha Brahma. The name of the Lord, when spoken constantly by man, is called Bhakti. And it is the easiest way in this Kali Yuga where you can get lost. Telling you, never go near such people. Yama told his dutas, don't go near such people if you hear them chanting. Leave them alone. Your victims are only those who have become so involved in the pleasures of the world that they have no thought for other things. Remember, the Lord's name is powerful enough to destroy all great sins. Penance, tapas, vratas, and other forms of self-denial do not grant man so much grace. In future, remember, the devotees of Narayana are exempt from punishment by me. Ajamila, in the meantime, released from the clutches of death, fell at the feet of his saviors. Before he could speak, they vanished. Ajamila was filled with repugnance when he thought of the life he had been leading till then. He spoke to himself, I have submitted to the temptations of the flesh and have descended to so low. All good men hate me and censure my behavior, abandoning my young wife and my aged parents who should have been cherished by me and honored to the end. I will try to shed the bondage of karma. I will be friendly towards all human beings. I will be at peace with myself and I will release myself from this world of sin by my efforts. Because of his momentary contact with the good, Ajamila was able to practice renunciation. He became a great devotee of Narayana. He had no attachments. He reached the banks of the river Ganga and there he meditated on the Lord. He was so sincere and so eager that soon he was able to find freedom from bondage. Once again he saw the same servants of the Lord who had seen before. His body fell lifeless on the river bank and Ajamila became one with the Lord. I am I'm skipping some portions. They're like the genealogy of families and so on. Don't have time. The birth of Vritrasura. Indra had become proud because he was the lord of the heavens. Once he was seated on the throne with Sachi by his side. All the heavenly attendants were surrounding him, and his glories were sung by the Gandharvas. Apsaras were entertaining. This is the life of Indra. Apsaras were entertaining him with their dances, and the court of Indra was glowing with beauty and music, the music of the Gandharvas and the Kinnaras. The 7 Maruts, the 11 Rudras, the 12 Adityas, the Ashwini twins, and all the lords of the quarters were there to pay homage to Indra. The great Brihaspati, the divine preceptor, came to the court. Now Brihaspati came. In his arrogance, you come across this in many stories in the Bhagavat. In his arrogance, Indra did not get up from his seat and honor his guru. Brihaspati was his guru. Brihaspati could not brook this insult. Without speaking, he stood for a long moment staring at the arrogant Indra on the throne, turned back and walked away from him. He left the court, reached home. Only after his guru left did Indra realize the magnitude of his impertinence. He chided himself with the words, "In my pride, I have insulted my Kula Guru. I must go to him at once and fall at his feet." Brihaspati is supposed to be the guru of all the devas, and Shukra is the guru of all the asuras. They also have a guru. I must go to him at once. I must ask for his pardon. Indra rushed to the home of Brihaspati. But the Guru, anticipating this move from Indra, already made himself invisible. And Indra could not find him. He was at a loss as to what he should do. The news spread like wildfire that Indra was without his religious mentor and he was feeling lost without him. Taking advantage of his helplessness, Asuras, headed by their guru Shukra, waged war on Indra. They knew that now Brihaspati is not there to help him. Let's see what happens. Chalo. The Devas were as usual defeated shamefully. Hurt by their position more than by the weapons of the Asuras, the Devas went to Brahma and poured out their misery. They asked him, "Please help us, give some advice." Brahma is always available. Brahma, taking pity on the Devas and on Indra especially, said, "Indra, you have in your pride insulted a great man. It is very unfortunate that this should have happened. I can only suggest one thing. You must now go and request Vishwarupa, the son of Twasta, to help you. He is great and is fit to be your guru. He should be made to accept the role of the guru of the Devas. Being an asura, now Twasta is actually an asura. He is asking him to make him the Kula Guru of the Devas. Being an asura, his sympathies will be with the asuras. You should be able to overlook that and ask him to be your guru. He will help you. Devas went to Vishwarupa and falling at his feet, Indra said, "We have come to you as supplicants, beggars. It is not right that we should teach you the nuances of dharma, but we wish to remind you that a guru who teaches Vedas is the personifications of the Veda. The father is the image of Prachapati and the mother the image of the earth. A brother is the image of Indra and a sister the image of compassion. An uninvited guest is the Lord Dharma himself, while the invited guest is the image of Agni. All living beings are but forms of the Lord. As such, you should treat us as your equal. You should become our Guru and lead us to victory. You are younger than me in age, but I fall at your feet. Since you have to be our Guru, age does not stand in the way. Please grant us our desire. Please be one of us." Like trying to convert from Asura to Deva. Vishwarupa smiled and said, "The role of a preceptor is not good for me. Being a preceptor is a thing which has been disapproved of by the wise, since it will cloud the Brahma Tejas of a rishi. But you are in trouble. It's my dharma to help you. It is a big sacrifice you are asking me to take. I am in a dilemma, but I am not able to refuse you. I will be your Guru." Vishwarupa became their Guru, and since he was conversant with the many arts, he was able to restore their lost ways to the Devas. His greatest service to Indra was the powerful armor which he had by name Narayana Kavacha, which he placed on him. He initiated the king of the Devas in the incantation of the sacred mantra Om Namo Narayana. Every organ of sense and thought and action is to be covered with thoughts on Narayana. Then it becomes the most powerful armor against all evil. Incessant repetition of the mantra Om Namo Narayana was the secret of the Kavacha, that's all. Wearing his Kavacha, Indra was able to defeat the Asuras in the war with them. Once a yajna was performed with Vishwarupa as the preceptor. While he was the officiating priest for Indra, the Lord of Devas, Vishwarupa had to invoke the Devas for their share of the Havish with the words Indraya idam Varunaya idam. Now, Vishwarupa, who was an Asura, naturally partial to the Asuras, by trickery, he made the Havish to reach the Asuras when he pronounced the above mantras. Indra saw that he was being deceived by his preceptor. Brahma had warned him of this contingency and had told Indra he should put up with it. But Indra could not brook this behavior of the Asura. He took up his sword and cut off the 3 heads of Vishwarupa, his own Guru. The head by name Soma Pitham, which was so named because he could drink Soma with it, was the first head to go. This, when severed from the body, became a bird by name Kapinjala. The head which would drink Sura was hence called Surapitham, and became another bird by name Kalavinga. The third, called Annadam, because he could eat food with it, became the bird Titiri. I like that bird's name, Titiri. Since he had killed a Brahmin, Indra was visited by the dread curse of Brahma Vidya. 1 year he suffered it. After the year was over, he requested the earth, the trees, women and water to share it among themselves and rid him of the sin. In return, he granted boons which made Brahmahatya ineffective in the long run. Now Twasta was very angry with Indra for having killed his son. He performed a homa, and the invocation was, "Arise, Indra Shatru, enemy of Indra, come out of the fire." When the yaga was over, there arose out of the fire a dreadful form. He was dark and huge, and he glowed like a cluster of clouds at the close of day. His hair was copper red, and so were his eyes. They were hot and burning like the sun at his zenith. He held a trident in his hand, and looking at him, people fled in sheer terror, so fearful was his form. And his roar. He was called Vritra. Vritra led the Asura host against that of the Devas. This is constant, it goes on. He was so powerful that the Devas could not withstand his prowess. He could not be quelled by anything. Astras of the Devas were all ineffectual. They were all swallowed by the son of Twasta. Vritra glowed with added brilliance because of the divine astras which were now lodged inside him. Devas fled from his presence in terror and panic. They rushed to Adi Purusha Narayana, the Lord of the Lords, and said, who appeared and said, "Be without fear. I will give you a method by which you can destroy Vritra. I suggest that you approach the great Rishi Dadichi. He is the one who taught Brahma Vidya to the Ashwini twins. In return, the Ashwini Kumaras have granted him immortality. You go to Dadichi and ask him for his strong and powerful bones. Dadichi is the one who gave the impregnable armor to Twasta. He gave it to his son, and the son in his turn gave it to you, Indra. If you take the Ashwin twins with you, and with their help ask Rishi for his body, he will give it to you. Out of his bones, ask your architect Vishwakarma to fashion a dreadful weapon. Call it vajra ayudha. Backed up as you are always with my glory, you will kill Vritra with this vajra. And all your astras will come back to you. The Devas went to the presence of Dadichi and stood before him in a shamefaced manner. They fell at his feet. In a hesitant voice, Indra told him that he had come to ask a favor of the old man. Old man sat silently smiling at them, waiting for Indra. Why has he come? To ask for his bones. Imagine going to an old man and saying, "Look, I need your bones." In a hesitant voice, Indra told him that he had come to ask for a favor. The old man smiled at them. Indra told him about his desire for his body, for his bones, and explained the reason why. Can you imagine the guts somebody has to go to an old person and say, look, I need your body, why? I need the bones. But Indra is capable of that. The Lord of the senses. Dadichi smiled scathingly at them and said, death, my dear Devas, is abhorrent even to the most dispassionate man. You have lost your senses. Even if the Lord himself asks for it, man finds it difficult to part with his life. I do not desire to die. I have been granted immortality. And you do not see why I should forego the privilege for your sake. I do not wish to die, and I will not renounce this body. Devas said, my Lord, you are a great man full of love and compassion for those who are suffering. How can you speak such words? If a man has the good fortune to possess the means to cure himself of his pains, he will never ask another man for help. But we are in trouble and we cannot do anything by ourselves. We are driven to ask this favor of you, though we know that it's a heinous thing that we are doing. The only thing which can save us, so please help us. Dadichi said, you have trapped me with an argument which cannot be disputed. A man who will not help those who are in trouble does not inherit the higher worlds. I am prepared to die for you. A really compassionate man will consider the pain of others as though it is his own. And knowing it, if he does not do anything to help others, to alleviate the pain, then there is no difference between him and the tree. I will help you in your distress. Be without any worry. I will abandon this body of mine for your sake, because Narayana himself has said that it will be of use to you. Dadichi set his mind on the Brahman and went into Samadhi. He then renounced the body which the Devas coveted. Indra took the mighty bones of the Brahman and gave them to Vishwakarma. The divine architect fashioned out of them the terrible weapon, the thunderbolt, which is famed the world over by the name Vajra. Mounted on his favorite elephant, Airavata, Indra set out to fight with Vritra. Led by Indra, the host of the Devas travelled towards the spot, and it's a battle. Let's skip it. Finally, Vritra was killed by Indra because he had the vajra with him, a vajra weapon. Now, while the story was ending, who is telling the story? Sukadeva to Parikshit. Parikshit intervened. Like us, he is enough listening to all these battles. Intervened and said, my lord, you have been telling about the Asuric birth of Vritra. You also related the cruelties perpetrated on him by him on the Devas. And yet, my Lord, he spoke words which only a great bhakta of the Lord can speak. How is it possible for this dread Asura to have been a bhakta of the Lord? Please enlighten me about this puzzling thing. Even the Devas who are said to be endowed with sattvic qualities, even rishis who are pure-minded do not seem to have so much devotion to the Lord as Vritra seems to have had. In this world there are more living beings than grains of sand on the seashore. Among them, a few, very few, walk in the path of dharma. Again, among this small minority, very few think of moksha. Among 1,000 who desire moksha, only one is able to really shed the bondage named worldly attachments. Among 1 crore of such sublimated souls, one will be able to reach the feet of the Lord. When such is the case, how is it that Vritra, who was an asura, who was bent and harassing the devas, who was a sinner, how is it that he had so much bhakti for the Lord? How is it that his life was lost in the feet of the Lord? Can you please explain this to me? Sukha Brahma was pleased with the pertinent question of Parikshit. He said, "Your question is apt. It's a great story. The background to the spiritual perfection of Vritra the Asura. I will be only too glad to narrate this story to you." In the country named Shurasena was a king by name Chitraketu. He ruled the world righteously. He was a very good king. There was only one thing which marred the happiness of the king. Though he had many wives, the king had no children. He was blessed with everything except a child, and that made him unhappy. Once the sage Angirasa came to his country by accident during his wanderings over the face of the earth. The king received him with all humility and honored him as was his due. Pleased with his good qualities, the sage said, "I am very pleased to see a king who is the very flower of courteous behavior. You are a very good man, and you seem to respect elders. You have been granted all the things which men usually crave for, and you deserve all the good fortune that has been granted to you. Yet, when I look at you, it seems to me that you are not happy. What is worrying you?" King told him about his misfortune. He said, "You are a seer, surely you must be able to see this. And yet, since you ask me, I will tell you. Blessed as I am with beautiful and good wives, with all the good things of the world, not the fortune to be the father of a son. These other things which I am blessed do not really please me. As a hungry man will not be pleased with offerings of flowers and sandal paste when he wants nothing but food. If you take pity on me, you will surely be able to help me and save me. So please take pity on me." Angirasa, the son of Brahma, took pity on him and preparing a divine concoction. Today if we knew, we could patent it, over which the Lord Twasta presided. He gave the concoction to the king and asked him to give to his eldest wife. The king Chitraketu sent for his wife, and after purifying themselves, the king and the queen saluted the rishi. The king then gave the concoction to his wife. After she had partaken of it, Rishi Angirasa went away from there to continue his wanderings. In course of time, a son was born to the king. The entire kingdom rejoiced. As for the king, his joy knew no bounds. He became attached to the child and spent most of his time with him. Mother of the child naturally became his favorite queen, and others felt neglected. They thought that they were now being treated worse than servant maids, since the king did not even visit them. Again, they were jealous of the mother of the child, since she was blessed. The jealousy made them lose their right thinking, and in desperation, they made up their minds to do something drastic. They poisoned the child. One day, they poisoned the child. The mother had left the child in his bed, and she looked at him. She thought he was sleeping. She went about her daily duties. After a while, she thought, why is he sleeping so long? And asked the maid to bring the child. Maid went and saw the child dead. They set up a heart-rending cry. The mother rushed to see what had happened. The news spread like wildfire. When he saw his beloved son dead, the king thought he would lose his mind. Both the father and mother cried like demented persons, and the entire palace was sunk in woe, and the entire country presented a dismal appearance. To them came Angirasa, who had granted them the child, and with him came Narada. They approached the king and spoke words of wisdom to this unhappy man. They said, O king, you are now mourning the death of your son. If you look at it in a sensible manner, you will realize that you are doing a foolish thing. What is he to you that you should weep for him? How are you related to him? You think that you are the father and he is your son? Think for a moment. In your previous birth and in his previous birth, and again in your next birth and his next birth, do you think you will both have the same relationship? This son of yours who seems to be yours now is not going to be your son in the next birth. He may be your friend or your enemy or perhaps an entire stranger to you altogether. This relationship of father and son is so indeterminate. When the river is flowing fast, grains of sand which flow along with it travel together for a while. And then they are parted never to meet again. Even so, in this stream called time, you and your son travel together for a while, and now the parting of the ways has come. Like a plant is born of another because of the seeds, even so children are born in this world. No one has a claim on his child. There is nothing here to be sorry for. Deluded by Maya, you think you are the father of this child and you are weeping? Shed this delusion. Angirasa and Narada both are advising. You and I and all living and non-living beings on the face of this earth are here only for a while at this birth. After death, there will never be a meeting of all of us. What happens to twins? This is just a temporary abode of all of us who stay together. Why then should you feel so sad? The Lord creates, He preserves, and He destroys. This is the law of nature. Out of the body of the Dehi called father, out of the body of the Dehi called mother, is born the body of the Dehi called the son. This is as natural as the birth of a seed from a tree. The bodies get destroyed following the laws of nature. The law that what is born must die stays. However, the Dehi, Atman never gets destroyed. And so there is no need to mourn the death of something which has no death. This demarcation between body and the Atman exists because of ignorance of the true nature of yourself, your Atman. Once you shed this ignorance, this avidya, your sorrow will disappear. Come, rouse yourself and get over this false sense of loss and pain. There is no need for pain here. King Chitraketu heard these words and wiping his face with his hands, he said, "Who may you be that speak such comforting words to me? It is known that the emancipated souls like you travel the world to teach the truth to deluded mortals like myself. You are the lords of my soul, which is floundering in the sea of ignorance. Please kindle inside my dark heart the light of wisdom." Angirasa said, "O king, I am Angirasa, who once granted you the son whom you desired. This Narada, the son of Brahma, is my brother. Burning as you are with grief at losing your son, you are not able to recognize me. We have come to save you. When I came to you last, I could have taught you the Brahma Vidya, but I saw that you were not ripe enough for it then. You were still caught up in the Maya of the Lord. You had a desire for an earthly son, so I granted you a son. Now you are going through the tortures of a man who has lost his son. O king, all the objects of the senses, your home, your wives, your wealth, your glory, your royalty, your servants, your friends, all these, but so many causes of pain and unhappiness, of delusion, fear and sorrow. Consider for a moment. Have you ever stood on the terrace of your palace and watched the clouds chasing each other? At times, have you not observed that they look like a large city with battlements, with palaces, with spires and castles? Has not this imagination ever conjured up a city out of nothing? This cloud city is called by the wise Gandharva Nagari, a city built entirely out of the power of imagination. Have you ever dreamt? During the duration of the dream, have you not felt that you were part of it? Once the dream is over, once you wake up, then you know that it is all unreal, that this waking state is real. Once the clouds are scattered by the passing breeze, you see the Gandharva Nagari melting away and you realize that it was all unreal, there was nothing there. Have you not felt all these things? Even so are the things of the world. This kingdom, this wealth, these wives, his son, your death, your mourning, all these things are like objects which you saw in a dream. They do not exist. Like when you get up from a dream, you realize that it was an unreal world you were living in, even so. When you wake up into the real state of the Brahman, this world will appear to you like a dream from which you have woken up. Wake up from this dream. O king, realize that nothing in this world is real or lasting. You will then be able to shed this unhappiness. Narada said, I will teach you a mantra from the Upanishads. After repeating it for a week, you will see the Lord Adishesha. You will then shed this sense of duality and reach the state which all emaciated souls have reached. With his yogic power, Narada made them all see the dead prince. Narada said, okay, let me make you see the dead prince who has gone. He spoke to him and said, I greet you. You are the soul of the dead prince. Look at all these kinsmen of yours. Your father and mother and others are grieving because you have left them. Please return to the body which you have abandoned. Accept the wealth and the kingdom which your father is eager to give you. Be seated on the throne and make them all happy. The soul of the son who had passed away spoke. It said, the divine soul, because of its getting involved in karma, is born in this world as a child of man, bird or beast. When considered in that respect, everyone who has been born in this world at some time or the other has been the son or father or mother of someone else, or a relation or a friend or enemy of someone else. Like gold and other commodities which are bought and sold which change hands constantly, even so the soul passes from body to body, from one father to another. This relationship is transient and unreal. As long as there is this relationship, so long does the word mind exist. But the Atman, though enclosed in a human body, does not have this delusion. It is only when there is involvement that pain arises. It is like a bar of gold. Consider a bar of gold. Today it is placed in a box which belongs to a miser. Yesterday it was in the strong box of a goldsmith. Years later it will be placed in the treasury of a king. Each of them will say that the gold is in his box, so long as it was in the goldsmith's box, or in that of the miser or that of the king. But they do not realize that the gold does not belong to the box, nor to the owner of the box. Even so, the Atman has no attachments and no pain, nor does it experience any pleasure. It does not grieve when parted from the body. Thus spoke the soul of the dead child. It's interesting that then, before the child went, Narada and Angirasa asked the child, anyway you will go back, so please prostrate before your father and mother. And the child asked, which number father and mother to prostrate? Which one? So many have passed and so many have come. So which one are you talking about? And disappeared. Amazed at the spectacle conjured up before them by the words of the dead prince, the people were rid of their sorrow and able to comfort themselves. The chain of bondage was snapped, and they did not have any more pain. The king, with his mind cleared as a pond because of the words of Angirasa and Narada, left his country and wandered away like an elephant abandons a lake filled with mire. I'm going to skip. We have half an hour this session? Right. So let's do something nice. Enough of sons dying and father mourning. When he saw that his brother had been killed by Narayana, who had assumed the form of a boar, Hiranyakashipu became very unhappy and very angry. Hiranyaksha was killed. His eyes were red and he caught his throbbing lips between his teeth. He raised his trident aloft and said, "My comrades, you all know how terrible has been the fate of my brother. He is killed. And who killed him? Our arch enemy. I cannot brook this. I will plunge this trident of mine into the neck of that Narayana, and with his blood I will pacify the soul of my dead brother." Please note, Hiranyakashipu is still thinking of Narayana, even though he is his enemy. Only then will I be rid of this gnawing pain which is eating into my vitals. Once Narayana is dead, all his devotees will take thought and die of their own accord, like creepers that dry up when the trees are uprooted. At the present moment, this is what you should all do. Go to the earth, which is crowded with Brahmins and Kshatriyas. Destroy all those who are doing tapasya, yajna, learning and penance. Why? Because Narayana is said to be the abode of dharma. He is said to be present where yajnas are being performed, where Brahmins congregate and pursue the daily rituals, where the devas are ever present. Wherever you see such things happening, go to that spot and destroy everything. Burn everything, kill everyone, uproot the sacred trees. Do everything you possibly can to make Narayana homeless. As long as dharmic activities are there, Narayana will dwell. Make him homeless. Aniketa, no home. Commanded by their master, the asuras began to harass everyone. With torches in their hands, they set fire to the huts of people who were poor because they had been told that Narayana dwelt with the poor. So they destroyed the huts of the poor people. The devas were so troubled by the asuras that they abandoned their heaven and moved about on earth in different guises. Even the devas left heaven and they were walking around in disguise. That is the situation. Hiranyakashipu comforted his relatives who were mourning the death of Hiranyaksha, his brother. He said, "It is not right that you should mourn the death of a hero. Death in battle is desired by a warrior. It is because of the karma long ago that two people are brought together in this." So, Hiranyakashipu knows a lot of Vedanta. Let me tell you that you are grieving for someone who is not dead. The Atman is eternal, pure, and indestructible. It is something apart from the body which it inhabits. Atman assumes a body, etc., etc. Abandon your grief. Let us consider our next action. I will find methods of avenging the death of my dear brother by completely destroying our arch enemy Narayana. Hiranyakashipu had but one desire. He wanted to be invincible. He wanted to be immortal. He wanted to be the sole lord of all the three worlds. So he went and performed intense tapasya with the power of his tapasya, which would be intense. He thought of pleasing Brahma, the easiest to please, so that his desires would be granted to him. Now, he did intense tapasya at Mandara mountain. As usual, the Devas got worried. Here is an asura who is doing such intense tapasya, and he seems to know at least some gleanings of Atma Vidya. He told his followers, the Atman never dies, and so on. This is a danger to us. They went to Brahma and said, my lord, I think it is time you went to the bhakta and give him his wishes. We cannot stand this tapasya. We are unable to bear the heat emanating from his tapas and his glory. In fact, the word tapas is derived from the word tapa, which means heat. Hiranya seems to have said, Brahma, with the power of his tapas, was able to create the universe. I know that if I try hard enough, I will be able to become like Brahma. I will then be able to take Satyaloka for myself. I will create a new world where all the laws will be changed. Why? They will be abolished altogether. What was all these days considered to be sin will hereafter be considered holy. The asuras will become devas. As for the devas, they will be asuras. That is the purpose for which Hiranya is performing tapas. Brahma listened to their words and went to the cave where Hiranya was lost in his tapasya. Brahma could not see him at first. So completely had the weeds and anthills covered him. Brahma went to him and said, my child, I am pleased with the tapas. Ask me for anything and I will grant it to you. Brahma, who was overcome with joy at the devotion of his bhakta, must evidently have forgotten the words of warning spoken by the Devas. Hiranya fell at the feet of Brahma, who sprinkled water on him from his kamandalu. At once the asura regained all his strength, freshness and beauty of form, which he had neglected all these years. He now glowed like molten gold. He spoke with a faltering voice, with tears in his eyes. He was overcome with joy at the sight of Brahma. He said, I want one boon from you. Only one. I had several desires, but the moment I saw you in person, I know that they have been granted even without asking. Only boon I want is, I want to be immortal. Very easy. Brahma said, my child, considering that I am myself not immortal, because every manvantara he goes back, he is not immortal, I am not able to grant you that boon. But mention the things from which you want to be immune, except COVID. I will grant you that. I cannot do more. Hiranya said, then grant me that none of your creations will be the cause of my death. Not one of the things you have created must be the death of me. No weapon should cause my death. I must not die inside the house, nor should I die outside the house. Not during the day, nor during the night. Not on the earth, nor in the sky. Man should not kill me, nor should an animal be able to kill me. Living things should not cause my death, nor should non-living things. Devas, asuras, or reptiles should all be unable to destroy me. Please grant me this boon. Please assure me that I will be the sole suzerain of the universe, and my wealth shall be immense. It should never diminish. Diminish? Brahma granted him the boons he asked for happily and vanished from the Mandara mountains. Then Hiranyakashipu, now with this kavach, set out on his conquests in accordance with the boons granted by Brahma. He was able to conquer all the three worlds. The guardians of all the quarters, Indra, Varuna, Kubera and Yama, they all became his vassals. All the servants of Indra had to serve Hiranya now. He received all the havish meant for Indra and other devas. The earth had to yield up her crop only for him. The seven seas had to give up their gems to Hiranya. And yet he was not happy. Why? Because his own enemy is still hanging around somewhere. He was not happy. He hated Narayana. And that hatred was smoldering inside him like the fire inside a bamboo forest. Years passed. The atrocities committed by the asuras became intolerable. People prayed secretly in the caves of their hearts and pretended to be devoted to Hiranya. The devas in desperation went to the presence of Narayana and asked him to deliver them from the tyranny of this asura king. The Lord comforted them and said, do not fear, leave it to me. I know the sufferings you have been undergoing. Hiranya's wickedness is becoming unbearable. He will be the father of a good son. When this sinful Hiranya ill-treats his son, who will be the very image of love and friendliness and all the many qualities dear to me, when such a Bhagavata is hurt by the Asura, then I will make an appearance. And in the spite of the many boons granted by Brahma, I will destroy this guy. Do you not know that one who hates the Devas insults the Vedas? And he insults the cows, the Brahmins, the sages, Dharma and me. And he is just waiting for the destruction of himself in my hands. Matter of time, so don't fear. Be patient. His son will be the immediate cause of his death. I will make sure of this, don't worry. Comforted by his words, the Devas went away from his presence. The fact that the end of Hiranyakashipu was near, that their sufferings would be at an end, made them feel that there was hope. So they waited for the good times in anticipation. Hiranyakashipu became the father of 4 sons. Everybody has heard only of Prahlada. Sambrada, Anuhrada, Hrida and Prahlada. Prahlada, the youngest, was endowed with qualities which are a heritage of the Devas, even though he was born to an Asura. He honored the elders, he loved the learned, his conduct was faultless, he was truthful and disciplined, he had his senses under control, he loved all living beings, he had a good heart, he was a good friend to all those who were in pain, he would serve wise people like a servant, he would comfort the afflicted like a father would his son. He would behave like a brother with those who were his equals in age. He had no ego and he was filled with humility. He was ever full of equanimity. In short, he was not in any matter fit to be the son of an Asura. And that too, an Asura like Hiranyakashipu. Shukra, the guru of the Asuras, had 2 sons by name Chanda and Amarka. They had been appointed by Hiranyakashipu to instruct Prahalada in the rules of conduct according to the code of the Asuras. This was when Prahalada was 5 years old. Along with Prahalada, other Asura children were also made to learn under the tutelage of these gurus. Prahalada heard the lessons taught by them and also repeated them to please the gurus, but he did not approve of them in his heart. Once, Hiranya took his son on his lap and said, "My child, you have been learning lessons from your gurus for quite some time now. Tell me what you think is the best thing in this world." Prahlada said, "My lord, people I have noticed always caught up in the web of sorrow. I think it is because of their delusion caused by 2 things, I and mine. It is this false conception which is the cause of pain, and it is the surest path for the downfall of the Atman. According to me, the best thing in the world is to abandon the home, abandon all one's belongings like one would a well which has gone dry, and go to the forest and take refuge at the feet of Narayana." Now that is a crucial thing to say to this Hiranyakashipu sitting on his lap, who is a fanatic hater of Narayana. For a moment, Hiranya sat speechless. This was the last thing he expected to hear from the lips of a child of 5 and his son. He should have been angry, but he controlled his anger and he laughed. Told himself, "My son is still a child. He can only repeat what others tell him. What he said are the words of those who love Narayana." This is a favorite theme of theirs. They always say this. Evidently, the child has been seeing some bhaktas of Narayana. I must not blame my child for talking such nonsense. Hiranya then summoned the 2 gurus and told them, "See that the bhaktas of that Narayana, bhaktas like Narada and others, do not come near my child. Do not let him out of your sight. Let him stay with you in your house and learn from you. Hiranya, it's almost put him in a boarding school. Hiranya obviously thought that the bhaktas of the Lord who were wandering around in the guise of ordinary citizens were trying to influence his son. By making Prahlada remain in the house of the Gurus, he thought that the child would be saved from contamination from the bhaktas of Narayana. In the home of the Gurus, little boy was placed between the two sons of Shukra, the Guru of the Asuras. With soft words, in a gentle manner, they asked him, "Child, how is it that your mind works differently from others? You're not like the other Asura children. Please tell us the truth. Are these thoughts your own? Or have they been instilled into you by someone else? If it is so, who is this person? Tell us without fear. We will not punish you." Prahlada said, "I salute the Lord who gave me these noble thoughts. Listen, listen to me, my lords, and consider the words with care. Man is in ignorance and thinks of the differences of I and mine. There is really no such thing. It is your delusion which makes you think that my own thoughts and those of others are different. When the Lord decides to bless a person, gets rid of the duality which robs him of his power of reasoning. Which duality involves him in this world of sorrow which is false? Unwise men think that the Lord is beyond duality, has put these thoughts into my mind. Even great Vedantins have been floundering in the quicksand called ignorance. The Lord who is beyond duality has put these thoughts into my mind and none else, nobody else. Like a piece of iron is drawn irrevocably towards a magnet, my mind is drawn to him on its own accord. The Lord is the pivot around which my thoughts revolve endlessly. I do not know what good actions I have performed in my previous birth that I should have been fortunate enough to have this craving now for Narayana. The Gurus lost their temper. One of them said, "Bring a stick to beat this impertinent boy. He will only bring disgrace and discredit to us. He has a bad mind and is like fire in the bamboo which will burn the entire family. The only way to bring him to the right path is punishment. In a forest of sandalwood trees, this boy is an alien tree. Narayana, the axe bent on destroying this wood, will use this boy as a handle." With threats of punishment, Chanda and Amarka tried to teach the young boy what they thought was the essential knowledge of an Asura prince. Some time passed. The Gurus thought that they had instilled in the child enough fear of punishment and that he had learned all that they had taught him. They thought that they could now present him to his father. So they took young Prahlada to the presence of Hiranyakashipu. The child fell at the feet of the father, took the feet on his head. With tears of joy, Hiranya took the child in his arm and placed him on his lap. He said, "You have learned so much from your gurus now. Tell me something of what you have learned. Gladden my heart." Prahlada's eyes were thoughtful. He raised them to his father's face and said in a soft voice, "Father, I have learned 9 important lessons which will help me." "What are they?" asked the doting father. "They are," the child replied. Shravana, listening. Kirtana, singing. Smarana, meditation. Pada sevana, serving. Archana, praising. Vandana, worshipping. Dasya, slaving. Sakhyam, friendship. And Atmanivedana, surrender of the self. Excellent, excellent, said Hiranya. Even if you employ one of these methods to serve me, you will be pleasing me immensely. You have learned your lessons well. He turned his pleased eyes on the Gurus also, who in their turn looked happy and complacent. Hiranya looked at Prahalada with loving eyes and he caressed the young child. Father, said Prahlada, these are methods of not worshipping you. These are the methods of worshipping Narayana. The Lord who is all-pervading can be approached by any one of these 9 methods. And that is the lesson I have been fortunate enough to learn. The boy sat silent and the father was silent too, but only for a moment. Anger boiled over and he turned his glowering eyes on the sons of Shukra, who were supposed to be teachers, and said, "What is this that I hear? Is this the lesson I asked you to teach him? You are trying to ruin my child. I can see that you are not loyal to me. You are taking sides with my enemy, and you are teaching my child things which are worthless. I have been deceived by you." The Gurus were desperate in their attempts to convince the king of their innocence. They said, "Lord, this is not our doing. Please believe us. We did not teach him these things, nor did anyone else to our knowledge. It comes naturally to him, so please control your anger. Do not ascribe this impertinence to us. We are innocent." Slightly mollified by their obvious sincerity, Hiranya turned to his son and said, "Look, my son, they say they did not teach you this nonsense. Tell me then, who taught you these dreadful lessons which are sure to ruin you and me?" Unperturbed by the anger of his father, the child looked steadily at Hiranya and said, "It is not given to people like you to know the greatness of the Lord. People who are caught up in the possessions of this world, in the enjoyment of the senses, in going through the channels of pleasure, though they know that they yield no pleasure, are like the blind men being led by the other blind men. Andaine maniyamana yatandaha, the blind leading the blind. Didn't come with Shakespeare. This is 2,000 years old. The blind leading the blind. Andaine maniyamana yatandaha. You perform the rites that are prescribed in the Vedas, the karma kanda of the Vedas. And those who ask you to perform them are as ignorant as you are about the truth. You think that the end and aim of this life is the gratification of your desires and your small petty ambitions. It's a pitiable state, your father. So long as you do not take the dust of the feet of sadhus, who are unattached to the things of the world, your mind will never lodge in the feet of the Lord, who is the only truth. It is only when you hear yourself, when you tear yourself away from this world, that you can set your mind on the Lord. The desire for the Lord should come of its own accord. Actually, it cannot be cultivated. It has to come on its own accord. No amount of teaching by a guru, nor the company of good people will help you to get into that frame of mind. Unless and until you abandon the thoughts of worldly things, you cannot learn the lessons I have learned. Hiranyakashipu was speechless for a long moment. He didn't know what's going on. This fellow sitting here talking to me. His anger was too intense for words to come out of his lips. He pushed the child rudely off from his lap, as if something is terrible is sitting there. He called out to his servants and said, "Take this fellow away from my presence. He should be put to death. He has no affection for his people. In my presence, he has the audacity to praise my dread enemy, Narayana, who killed my beloved brother. He sings the praises of Narayana. When I see this inordinate love that he has for the Lord, as he calls him, I am sure this son of mine is none other than my enemy. He has renounced his father at the age of 5. He will not be of any good to me. When a son, though born of oneself, behaves thus towards his father, it's but right that he should be cast away like a dread disease. When a part of the body threatens to hurt the entire body, then the sensible thing will be to get rid of the offending part before the cancer spreads." I said that. Only thus can the body be saved. You think of him as my son, but he is my enemy. He is like desire dwelling inside the heart of a sage. If it is not destroyed, it will in turn destroy the dwelling place. This child should be killed as soon as possible. In the presence of the king, his henchmen took up the dreadful javelins and tridents, began to hurt the child Prahalada, who stood unmoved. His mind was far away with the Lord. Weapons were ineffectual in their attempt to wound the child. It was like the futility of a man's attempts to achieve something when he has not the grace of the Lord to bless his attempts. Amazed at the spectacle, Hiranya stopped the servants and said, "We will try other methods." Many methods were tried. Prahlada was made to lie on the ground. Wild elephants were made to walk on him. But he could not be killed. He was thrown into a pit with serpents, but nothing happened. He was thrown to the ground from the top of a mountain. He got up and said, "Narayana." They dug a pit and placed him inside it, covered him with earth. He was not killed. They made him drink poison. He drank it, saying Narayana. They tried to burn him alive. Prahlada continued to live. The king was desperate. He could not put to death a small, tender child of 5, he the great warrior. The Gurus approached the king, who was sunk in thought, and said, "In course of time, the child may be corrected. We will take thus and try once again. We will keep other Asura children also. Together, they may be able to make him interested in the things which amuse them." The king sent Prahalada once again to the home of the Gurus, hoping for the best. Tomorrow we'll see what happens. Otherwise you won't come, no, tomorrow. By doing this job of explaining the Bhagavatam to you, I am only blessed. Don't know what I am blessed. Maybe this is the selfish motive.